Okay, retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. Jinsei, go. Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go to continue PDI.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Christmas 1968. The Apollo 8 mission was launched.
I was 9 years old in 1968. We were actually on our way to a Christmas event. And it was a clear night, stars in the sky. We were in the car listening as the broadcast from Apollo 8 came over the radio.
For millennia, we had looked up from Earth to the heavens above. Apollo 8 changed our perspective forever. We'd watched the stars. We'd watched the sunrise and the moonrise. But Apollo 8 showed us something unprecedented. This was earthrise.
We take that shot for granted now, but over the last 50 years, there have been many pictures of the Earth rising over the horizon of the moon, but the Apollo 8 mission took the first one. It was the first time that man had seen the Earth from beyond the moon.
There's been plenty of sunrise pictures and moonrise pictures, but for the first time ever, as our Apollo 8 astronauts were skimming the surface of the moon and sending back those photos to Earth, which were fascinating in itself, for the first time ever in the history of the world, we got to see the Earth rise from the perspective of space. Truly fascinating and iconic. Yeah, and if we stop to think about it, it really was 50 years ago, the world's first selfie.
The world which Apollo 8 left behind was in turmoil. 8 months earlier, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Riots ensued. In June of that year, Bobby Kennedy was also assassinated. The Vietnam War was raging. College campuses were ablaze. A controversial president had just been elected. And that was just the United States. It seemed as if the whole world was tearing itself apart. But not from space. Colonel James Irwin, the 8th man on the moon, described it like this.
The Earth reminded us of a Christmas tree ornament hanging in the blackness of space. As we got farther and farther away, it diminished in size. Finally, it shrank to the size of a marble. The most beautiful marble you can imagine.
Achieving this new perspective was not easy.
You're aiming at a moving object from a moving object. The Earth is turning. You're aiming at a moon that's moving. And the speeds are fairly significant. The computers that were available in those days were, in many cases, almost as big as a house, certainly the size of a room, with very limited capability. Far smaller than you would have found even in an old flip phone, let alone anything you've got on a smartphone today.
I can say, as an aerospace engineer that's been blessed to be part of the human spaceflight program for over 30 years, that it takes tens of thousands of parts coming together on the launch vehicle and on the spaceship, and literally thousands of people part of a team to get to a point not only to launch this amazing engineering accomplishment, but to have a successful mission to get to space and returning our astronauts home safely.
To be able to calculate a precise aim point, to be able to fire the rocket motors at the right time, to be able to enter that aim point, to make adjustments as you were moving, had to be calculated very precisely. So all of those came into play as you were looking at the challenges of getting man to the moon.
But on Christmas Eve, 1968, the crew of Apollo 8 had their moment. With the whole world listening in, they decided to read from the opening chapter of the Bible.
We are now approaching lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good.
High above a fractured world, the astronauts spoke of a majestic creator, a God of order and peace.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
But orbiting the moon was not the ultimate goal.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Apollo 8 was preparing the way for Apollo 11. And on July the 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong took his one small step.
4 forward, drift into the right a little. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's one of history's most famous lines, but it wasn't what he'd planned to say. Whether the sound cut out or he forgot, Armstrong was meant to say that's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. But one small step for man has a deeper resonance to it. As Armstrong walked on the moon, we all did. He was our representative. That was the message of the plaque they left on the moon's surface.
For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this LEM. Dear men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. It came in peace for all mankind.
I can't help thinking of that on Christmas. The angel said, "Peace, goodwill to all men." 50 years ago, men went up in space in peace. 2,000 years ago, God came down to earth in peace. That's Christmas.
It's a connection that several astronauts have reflected on since. Colonel James Irwin put it like this:
God walking on the earth is more important than man walking on the moon.
For Irwin, his peacemaking mission to the heavens was a faint reflection of God's peacemaking mission to Earth. But such missions are fraught with danger.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Yes, Houston, we've had a problem.
On Apollo 15, Irwin and his fellow moonwalker David Scott left a reminder of the cost of space exploration.
I think many people have contributed to this pinnacle we've reached. Some have contributed more than others, and we know of 14 individuals who contributed all they had. And because of that, while we left a small memorial on the moon, there's a simple plaque with 14 names. And those are the names in alphabetical order of all the astronauts and cosmonauts who have died in the pursuit of exploration of space. Near it is a small figure representing a fallen astronaut.
What they called fallen astronaut remains on the moon as a testament to the 14 astronauts who had died. Since then, there have been others.
Challenger, only seconds after leaving the launch pad, according to NASA, has exploded in midair.
Breaking story from NASA's Mission Control in Houston. NASA has declared an emergency after losing communication with the Space Shuttle Columbia just minutes before it was to land.
So why commit to such a costly mission?
At the Kennedy Space Center, we have a plaque commemorating all the astronauts who had paid the ultimate price, their lives, to space exploration, the mission of space exploration. So as we continue to explore and go to the moon and space and the heavens, we absolutely think that the risk is worth it. And at Christmas time, we reflect. It's the same with God. He sent his son to Earth to pay the ultimate price. I'm sure glad he thought it was worth it.
The human cost of planting a message of peace on the moon 50 years ago is incalculable. And yet peace has continued to elude us. But is it possible that peace is much closer to us today than we ever imagined? Not because man 50 years ago walked in the heavens, but because God 2,000 years ago walked on the earth.